social conditioning play in the search of purpose and meaning? And is it possible to recondition the brain to achieve more desirable results?
Look, that's another fascinating question, and it's a really big question too, because, you know, what role does social engineering play in the search for purpose and meaning? Well, it plays an absolute central role. Now, if you think about whatever society that you're born into, whatever culture that you're born into, the role of that culture and that role of, you know, that society is to basically teach you how to be a good member of that society. Now, you could be taught to be a good member of anything. You could be exposed to anything that the world has to offer, except that you're really only ever exposed to what the culture that you're born into has to offer. And that's really, really an important part. So every piece of structure, every organization, everything about that society is there to basically reproduce itself. And if you think about that, you are born into a Western advanced economic society. Okay, so then what is a good, obedient servant or member of that culture? What does it actually look like? Because it's different in other cultures. So if I were born into, let's say, a Kalahari Bushman culture, the only thing that I would actually learn is how to be a good representative, how to be a good member of the Kalahari Bushman, you know, tribe or whatever it is. If I were, you know, born in at the highlands in Papua New Guinea, then I would learn whatever the tribe or whatever the culture or whatever the society wanted to actually teach me to become. And so there's no different. It doesn't matter whether you're born into a communist society, whether you're born into a socialist society, a Marxist society, a fascist society. You know, the job is for that culture and that process to reproduce itself. And so then you say, okay, so how does an economy work in a Western democratized, advanced economic culture? Well, 80% of an economy in the way that I've just described it is dependent on consumerism. So it's consumer spending that drives at least 80% of the economic totality of that culture. And it's only about 20% of government spending. Now, you know, in times of hardship, governments can spend more money, and that's, you know, they talk about monetary policy and fiscal policy and stuff like that. But just in a normal sense, that 80% of an economy is driven by consumer spending. And so, okay, so now what do we need to do? How do we need to teach our children to be good consumers? Well, we've got the whole education system. We've got all of the infrastructure around that. It's going to teach you all of the things that you need to be able to do in order to go out there and get a good job. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a career path, and it serves most people. But see, once you actually have a job, then there's a different part of social engineering kicks in. Generally speaking, and I know that there's always exceptions to the rules, but generally speaking, you're not well rewarded from the job that you do. And so, okay, so how do you get that sense of reward from the job that you do, or the exchange of your time and your labor? Well, society teaches you that you basically get the reward from spending the money that you've just exchanged your time and labor for. And spending the money then drives the economy. And so they want you to spend most of what you earn, because if you save most of what you earn, then the economy, that money is not going into the economy, and so there's no economic growth. And so then they teach you, well, look, not only can you spend the amount of money that you earn on a weekly basis or a fortnightly basis or a monthly basis, we'll give you all forms of credit, in the form of mortgages, in the form of credit cards, in the form of loans, for anything, so that you can actually spend future money. And so there is a deliberate design in the way that social conditioning or social engineering creates purpose and meaning. So your purpose is to be a good member of society. And that means that you are a productive member of society. In other words, you earn money and then you spend money back into the economy so that the economy grows. And And so you then, move into that sort of earn, spend, and borrow week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. And then you get to the end of it wondering where it all went, but not ever having ever created any sense of financial freedom or financial independence for yourself. And so that purpose is by design. That purpose is again, it allows the culture to continually reproduce itself. And so it happens generation after generation after generation. It just happens in different forms, but it still happens that you are taught to basically earn, spend, and borrow. So that's the socially engineered meaning and purpose. And, I said earlier on, you don't get here by accident, you get here by design.
That's right.
And so now there's got to be an awareness around that develops. But is this all I want? Is there something more that I can experience? And the answer is yes. But then it requires self-directed purpose. It then requires self-directed meaning. But to understand what the starting point is for you, we have to go back and look at, well, how the social engineers already designed meaning and purpose into you, and not by, trying to make that the monster, or not trying to, make that wrong. But it's well, okay, I don't, as an individual, you don't have to continue along that pathway if you want something larger, if you want something more out of life. And so that, again, is the archetype hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talks about. And that's where most people need support from people who have already broken free of that socially engineered sense of meaning and purpose. And again, not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just that it can't fulfill a person's soul if they want more meaning and purpose than just the socially engineered laborer, if you like. And so again, it's all about reaching out for those people that can share meaning and purpose that allows them to get different results.
Great, that makes a lot of sense.